Okay, so are you ready to get a little bit dark today?
I think so. Yeah, bring on the darkness.
All right, well then let's dive right into it. Dostoevsky's Crime and Punishment. And don't worry,
Mm-hmm.
even if you haven't read the whole thing, or maybe you started it and just couldn't quite get through it,
Yeah,
got you covered.
it's a long one.
Oh yeah,
It's dense.
definitely.
Yeah.
But it's brilliant. And we're going to unpack why it's considered such a masterpiece.
Absolutely. We'll trace the journey of the main character, look at the psychological drama,
Yeah.
the guilt, the redemption.
Yeah, so think of this deep dive as like your cheat sheet
Yeah.
to Crime and Punishment. We're going to hit those key excerpts and characters.
Yeah, think of it like puzzle pieces. We'll put those pieces together so you can see the bigger picture.
Yeah, exactly what Dostoevsky was trying to tell us.
Exactly. And it all starts in St. Petersburg.
Ah,
That's where we meet our main character, Rodion Raskolnikov.
yeah.
A former student, really bright guy, but he's drowning in poverty.
Yeah, you get this sense of him just feeling trapped by his circumstances.
Absolutely. And Dostoevsky really paints a vivid picture of his mental state right from the beginning.
Yeah, the excerpt where he describes himself as a worm crushed by society.
Yes, exactly. That's crucial to understanding his mindset.
And then there's that encounter with Marmeladov, this totally broken man who just spills his guts about his miserable life.
Yeah.
It's such a strange encounter. Why is Raskolnikov so drawn to this guy's suffering?
Well, I think it's because he sees himself in Marmeladov.
Oh, interesting.
They're both trapped by their circumstances.
Yeah.
They both feel like they're on the margins of society.
But Raskolnikov is also drawn to Marmeladov's intelligence,
Right.
his depth.
Remember that quote where Raskolnikov says pain and suffering are always inevitable for a large intelligence and a deep heart?
Yeah.
He's almost romanticizing suffering as a sign of depth.
Right. It's like he thinks you have to suffer to be truly intelligent.
Exactly.
And that's before he commits the murder.
Right.
He kills this elderly pawnbroker.
Yeah. A brutal act.
Yeah.
There's no way around that.
No. But Dostoevsky doesn't just present Raskolnikov as a monster.
No, he gives us a glimpse into his twisted logic, his Superman theory.
Right. That whole idea that some people are extraordinary
Yeah. Above conventional morality.
and they can justify any means to achieve their ends.
It's a terrifying thought.
It is, and it's so well portrayed in the book. The way Dostoevsky gets into Raskolnikov's head, it's chilling.
Absolutely.
And even tries to justify it, with this percentage theory,
Oh, yeah, weighing the harm of one life against the potential good.
like some sort of moral math equation.
It's disturbing how he rationalizes this horrific act.
And the excerpts about his planning, the acts, the alibi, you see his intellect becoming a weapon.
A weapon turned against himself, ultimately.
Because, of course, the murder doesn't bring him the freedom he expected.
No, instead he's consumed by guilt paranoia. He descends into near madness.
Yeah, those scenes are so intense.
Especially that one where he has the fever dream about beating the horse. It's just pure psychological torment.
It's like his conscience is punishing him more than any court of law ever could.
Exactly. Dostoevsky really understood the psychology of guilt.
Yeah, he shows us that the worst prison isn't a physical one.
Right.
It's the prison of your own mind.
And Raskolnikov becomes a prisoner of his own making.
And then Sonia enters the picture, forced into prostitution to support her family.
Yeah.
But she's also this incredibly strong moral center in the story.
Right. She represents compassion, faith.
It's interesting that Raskolnikov confides in her of all people.
Why do you think that is?
Well, maybe he sees something in her that he's lost.
Possibly her faith, her ability to still see good in the world.
Yeah, even in the midst of such suffering.
Exactly. And remember what Dostoevsky wrote, the darker the night, the brighter the stars, the deeper the grief, the closer is God.
Yeah.
Sonia embodies that idea.
Their scenes together are so powerful, the way she urges him to confess, to seek redemption.
It's like she's offering him a lifeline.
Especially that scene where she reads to him the story of Lazarus rising from the dead.
Oh, yeah. Powerful imagery.
It's like a roadmap to his own potential resurrection.
And he does confess eventually, but the confession is just the beginning.
Right, it's the first step on a much longer journey.
A journey of redemption, a journey of confronting the darkest parts of himself.
And speaking of darkness, we can't forget about Svidrigailov.
Oh, Svidrigailov. He's like this dark mirror to Raskolnikov.
Yeah, embodying those unchecked desires.
Ray, he represents the path Raskolnikov could have gone down if he hadn't confessed.
A path of no return.
He's wealthy, but he's haunted.
Yeah, and he's capable of both good and evil.
Remember when he offers Sonia money?
Yeah.
But there's always this darkness lurking beneath the surface.
And his suicide is a chilling reminder of what can happen when you let your darker impulses win.
It makes you wonder if true freedom is actually about embracing our limitations,
Yeah, recognizing our need for connection and compassion.
not trying to transcend them.
Exactly.
And speaking of connection, we have to talk about Raskolnikov's relationships with his mother and sister, Pulcheria Alexandrovna and Dunya.
Oh yeah, they add another layer to the story.
They come to St. Petersburg hoping for a better life.
Completely unaware of the darkness he's tangled up in.
It's heartbreaking to see how he pushes them away.
Yeah, consumed by guilt and shame, he can't even allow himself to be loved by them.
And then there's Dunya's engagement to Luzhin.
Oh, Luzhin, what a character.
He's this sleazy, manipulative guy who just wants to use Dunya for her beauty and social standing.
Yeah, Raskolnikov sees right through him.
But he's powerless to stop it.
It's like another layer of his punishment.
Luzhin is a great example of the hypocrisy that Dostoyevsky was critiquing in Russian society.
Right, this superficial morality using wealth and status to exploit others.
And it's interesting how Raskolnikov, despite his crime, still has a stronger moral compass than someone like Luzhin.
It's a reminder that even in the darkest of circumstances, we still have choices to make about who we want to be.
Exactly. And that idea of choice of moral responsibility is central to Crime and Punishment.
Dostoevsky isn't just telling us a story. He's forcing us to confront uncomfortable questions about good and evil.
And about our own capacity for both.
All right, let's take a breath here and we'll come back and explore some of the other key characters and themes in the next part of our deep dive.
Okay, so we've talked about some of the really dark stuff, the murder, the guilt, the psychological torment.
Yeah, the heavy stuff.
But there's also these glimmers of light in the story.
Oh, yeah, like who?
Well, like Razumikhin, for example.
Oh, yeah, Raskolnikov's best friend.
Exactly. He's fiercely loyal, always there for Raskolnikov, even when Raskolnikov pushes him away.
Yeah, he's like a rock, a steady presence amidst all the chaos.
And he's got a good heart. He really does. You see that in the way he takes care of Raskolnikov when he's sick.
And, of course, he falls for Dunya.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah,
Adds a whole other layer to their relationship.
definitely.
But Razumikhin also represents something important in the novel.
What do you mean?
Well, he embodies this kind of simple goodness,
Yeah.
a life of connection and purpose. It's a path that Raskolnikov could have chosen but didn't.
That's a good point. It's like Dostoevsky showing us different possibilities for Raskolnikov's life.
Exactly. Different paths he could have taken.
And it's not just the characters who play a role in the novel.
Oh, you're talking about the city?
Yeah, St. Petersburg itself.
It's almost like a character in itself.
Totally oppressive, suffocating.
Dostoevsky uses the city to mirror Raskolnikov's internal state.
Right.
The stifling heat, the crowded streets, the poverty. It all reflects his sense of claustrophobia and despair.
There's that quote where he says, the city itself breathed fever and delirium.
Yeah, it's such a vivid image of how our surroundings can impact our mental state.
And then there's all that yellow imagery.
Oh, yeah, the yellow.
And not a happy, sunny yellow either.
No, it's sickly, almost jaundiced.
The pawnbroker's apartment, the wallpaper, even Raskolnikov's dreams, it's everywhere.
And it's always associated with decay, moral corruption, unease.
Yeah, it's like a visual representation of the moral decay that's happening both within Raskolnikov and within society itself.
Exactly. Dostoevsky was a master of using these kinds of symbolic details.
And what about the dreams and hallucinations? Those scenes are so unsettling.
Well, they're meant to be. They blur the lines between reality and madness.
They make you question what's real and what's not.
Dostoevsky was fascinated by the power of the subconscious mind. He uses dreams to reveal Raskolnikov's deepest fears and desires.
But they're also distorted, fragmented.
It's like we're getting a glimpse into his unraveling psyche.
Okay, so we've talked about the characters, the setting the psychological elements.
Right.
But at its core, Crime and Punishment is a novel of ideas.
It really is. Dostoevsky grapples with some huge philosophical questions.
Like what?
Well, like the idea of the extraordinary man, for example.
Oh yeah, we touched on that earlier.
Raskolnikov believes he's one of these exceptional individuals who can transcend conventional morality.
But Dostoevsky challenges that notion throughout the novel.
He shows us how that belief leads to suffering and self-destruction.
It's like he's saying that no one is above the law, not even the most brilliant or extraordinary individual.
Right, and he also explores the nature of guilt and redemption.
Yeah, those are big themes in the book.
Raskolnikov's inner turmoil is so palpable.
He's clearly tormented by what he's done.
But how do you find redemption after committing such a horrific act?
That's the question Dostoevsky is wrestling with.
And he doesn't offer any easy answers.
No, he shows us that redemption is a long, arduous process.
It's about confronting your guilt, accepting responsibility, and finding a way to live with the weight of your actions.
There's that line where Sonia says to him, suffering is the sole origin of consciousness.
Yeah, it's a powerful idea.
Like suffering is necessary for growth and understanding.
Exactly. And it's through suffering that we can come to a deeper understanding of ourselves and our place in the world.
So it's not just about punishment.
No, it's about transformation, about purging ourselves of our sins and emerging changed.
And what about the role of faith?
Oh, faith is huge in this book.
Sonia's belief is unwavering.
And it's a stark contrast to Raskolnikov's nihilistic despair.
It's like she's offering him a path out of darkness.
But he resists it at first.
Yeah, he's so caught up in his own intellect, his own sense of pride.
He wants to figure everything out on his own terms.
But eventually he has to surrender,
To something bigger than himself.
and that's when he can truly start to heal.
Right. And it's interesting how Dostoevsky weaves these philosophical and religious ideas into a story that's also a gripping psychological thriller.
Yeah, you're constantly on the edge of your seat wondering what's going to happen next.
But you're also forced to confront these big questions about morality, justice, or human condition.
It's what makes Crime and Punishment such a powerful and enduring work of literature.
And it's a book that stays with you long after you've finished reading it.
Yeah, it makes you think differently about the world and your place in it.
And about the choices we make and the consequences that follow.
All right, we're getting close to the end of our deep dive. Let's move on to the final part and talk about the ending of Crime and Punishment and what it all means. All right, so we've made it to Siberia with Raskolnikov.
Yeah.
Right, he's confessed he's being punished, but is it really about the physical punishment?
I don't think so. No, the real punishment is happening inside him. That
Yeah.
prison in Siberia is brutal, but it's nothing compared to the prison of his own mind.
Yeah, there's that part where he describes himself as a dead man. It's like he's lost his soul completely.
He's totally lost a sense of purpose, stripped, bare forced to face what he's done.
And it's interesting because he thought he was extraordinary, right above the law, but the murder just destroyed that whole illusion.
Exactly. He's left empty, broken. And then there's Sonia.
Oh yeah, Sonia, she follows him to Siberia, gives up everything to be there with him.
It's such an incredible act of love and devotion.
It really is, but he doesn't exactly make it easy for her, does he?
No, he pushes her away, resists her attempts to help him find some kind of peace.
Why do you think he does that?
Well, I think he's still holding on to his pride, his intellect. He wants to understand everything on his own terms.
Without relying on faith or anything like that?
Exactly. He's stuck in this cycle of self-torment, and then there's that dream he has.
Oh, the one about the plague.
Yeah, the plague that infects everyone with intellectual arrogance.
And leads to chaos and destruction.
It's like he's realizing that his own belief in his exceptionality was a kind of sickness.
Wow, that's a powerful image.
It shows the danger of egotism. This idea that we can detach ourselves from humanity and act without consequence.
So is he redeemed in the end? Does he find peace?
Well, the ending is ambiguous. Dostoevsky doesn't give us a clear-cut answer.
Oh, really?
Yeah, but we do see him start to read the Gospels,
Uh-huh.
the books Sonya's been urging him to read.
So there's a hint of a spiritual awakening, maybe?
Maybe a softening of his heart, but it's really up to the reader to decide what happens next.
I see. So it's not about providing a definitive answer.
No, it's about making us wrestle with these complex questions about guilt redemption, the nature of forgiveness.
And what about us? What do you think Dostoevsky wants us to take away from all of this?
Well, I think he's trying to show us that the real battle is within ourselves.
What do you mean?
I mean, the greatest crimes and the most profound acts of redemption, they happen inside us, not out there in the world.
In our souls.
Exactly, in the depths of the human soul, and we can't escape the consequences of our choices.
But we can choose how we respond to those consequences.
Exactly, and that's the power of Crime and Punishment. It's a story about hope transformation, even in the darkest of times.
We've covered a lot of ground today, explored some really intense themes.
We have, but I hope you'll walk away with a deeper understanding of this incredible book.
Yeah, and maybe even a desire to explore more of Dostoevsky's work.
He was a brilliant writer.
He really was. Well, thanks for joining us on this deep dive into Crime and Punishment.
It's been a pleasure.
We'll see you next time.